Well, hello there, guys. How are you? I hope you're all having a brilliant day or a great night so far, should I say, because it's actually quite late here. So I hope that you're still up. And if you are, thank you very much for joining me. Or if you're new, a very warm welcome to you also, because there has been quite a lot of you new guys the last couple of weeks. So I'm very glad you found our wee corner of YouTube. So I decided to make this classic quiche. I asked whether you wanted to see a classic quiche or a cherry bakewell tart, because I was going to be making this for Easter lunch, but we actually went out for Easter lunch today, so we had this later on with a wee bit of salad, so it was a kind of tea in a way. And you know what, it's absolutely delicious if you like eggs. Now, I'm not a fan of eggs, but I'm told this is absolutely beautiful if you do like eggs. So if you want to follow along, this is what I've got for you, and this is what I used. First thing you can see there is 50 grams of freezing cold butter. Now you're going to want to get this butter as cold as possible. I actually popped mine into the freezer for an extra 5 minutes just to make sure it was extra cold. And I've got 4 medium eggs. These are just whole eggs. I've got 60 grams of Emmental cheese. I'm going to be grating this later on. I've also got 200 grams of plain or all-purpose flour. I've got 300 mils of double cream. I've got 1 small leek, which I've just washed thoroughly and, chopped it up quite finely. I'm also going to be using between 4 and 5 tablespoons of ice cold water. Now, it's the same with the water. I just popped it into the freezer until it was starting to freeze, because you're going to want your water as cold as possible without it being ice, obviously. I've got 200 grams of bacon lardons, and I've got 1 egg white. Now, when you're cracking your eggs, just make sure that you take the white from one of your eggs and set it to the side, because we're going to use that later on. Yep, so let's move on and see what's next. So like I said, if you just pop some water into a glass bowl and then into the freezer, it doesn't take long to freeze. And the same with your butter, you just want this as cold as you can without it being frozen, obviously. So the first thing we're going to do is start on our pastry. So into a large bowl you want to pop your flour. This is 200 grams of plain flour. You don't have to sift it or anything. And to that I'm going to add my butter. That's 100 grams. You can use salted or unsalted, it's up to you. Now I just sliced mine quite thinly. You can even grate it, that'd be even better. You just want to rub your butter into your flour until it resembles breadcrumbs. And, just put in about 1/4 teaspoon of salt as well. So just keep rubbing in and keep rubbing in with your fingertips, and eventually you'll be left with this. It's just like, it feels and looks like breadcrumbs. You just don't want any big chunks of butter in there. Just, incorporate it as well as you can. It should take you about 3 or 4 minutes. It doesn't take long. You can do this in a food processor as well if you prefer. And to that you want to add between 3 and 5 tablespoons of your ice cold water. Now you just want to add enough water until it starts to come together and forming a ball. You don't want too much water in here, just as little as you can get away with. And just cut in your water with a knife, because you don't want to be touching this with your hands, because the warmth of your hands, you don't want it to heat your butter. You want to keep everything nice and cold for as long as you can. So once you can squish your pastry into a ball, that's you've gone far enough. So once you're at that stage, just tip it out onto your surface, and you just want to gently bring this in, just bring it into a shape, a kind of ball, so that you can just pick it up. And we're going to wrap this up and refrigerate this. So just try not to overwork it too much at this stage. You just want to bring it together so that you can pick it up. And I'm using parchment paper or greaseproof paper to wrap mine up, because I feel sometimes if you wrap it in cling film it can sweat. So I just prefer doing it this way. So you want to pop this into the fridge just to let it relax. Minimum of 15 minutes, and half an hour would be ideal. In the meantime, you can go ahead and grate your cheese. This is just 60 grams of Emmental. And then you want to go and fry your bacon or your pancetta, whatever you've decided to use, and your leeks. So that's 200 grams of bacon lardons. And once they've been frying a wee minute, just pop in your leeks. If you don't like leeks, you can use onion. This is just one small leek. I've used the whole leek and I've just washed it thoroughly. And as you can see, it's chopped up quite small. And you want this quite well cooked. And I was happy with this. And I'm just going to set this to the side until I need it later on. Doesn't matter if it cools down because it's going into the oven for about half an hour, 40 minutes anyway. So by now your pastry should have relaxed sufficiently. So you can get it out of the fridge, flour your surface and your rolling pin. Pop your pastry down on the top and just give it a quick roll. You just want it big enough to cover your tin. I was using a 23 centimetre tin and this was the perfect size. Now once you're happy, just wrap your pastry around your rolling pin and that way it'll be really easy to pick up. And then just drop it straight on top of your tin. I'm not going to grease this because this is actually a new tin and it is non-stick and it's got a loose bottom so it comes away really easy without sticking. And just grab a wee bit of scrap pastry, roll it into a ball and use that to push your pastry down and into all the wee sort of sides and nooks and crannies. And you can go around with your fingers as well. Just be very gentle because you don't want to rip this. But if you get any wee holes or anything, you can patch them up. You just want to keep going round and keep going round until you're happy that everything is in place. And then with your rolling pin, you can just go straight over the top of your tin because it's, it's fluted. And that'll just come right off. Now because this is a non-stick pan and due to the nature of the pastry, it will shrink down slightly. So what you want to do is just go round your pastry and sort of pinch your pastry upwards just by a couple of millimetres. And that way, when it does shrink back in the oven, you've given yourself another couple of millimetres. You're not going to get too much shrinkage. Your mixture isn't going to go spilling over the top of your pastry because you've given it an extra couple of millimetres over the top, as you can see there. So if we lose a wee bit of height, it doesn't matter. And I was happy with that. So now you just want to go around your pastry, just the bottom of your case, with a fork and just prick it all over and then refrigerate that again for about 15 minutes. And once it's had the 15 minutes, you can get it out your fridge. And then you want to cover your pastry with some foil or parchment paper. I like to use foil. And then to that, you want to use some kind of weight. So you can use baking beans, glass beads. I just use rice because I've got tons of rice. Anything that's just going to be heavy enough to hold it down. And you want to blind bake this for about 15 minutes. And while you're waiting on your case blind baking, you can go ahead and start your filling. So to a jug, you want to pop in your 300 ml of double cream and then your eggs. So that's 3 whole eggs plus the yolk from earlier. Because remember, we're keeping the white for something else. To that, you want to add a good dash of pepper and salt and just give that a good mix together. So once you're happy, you can just set that to the side. So once your pastry has had the 15 minutes, you can just lift it out your foil and your rice or baking beans or whatever you've used. And you'll be left with this lovely part. This is only part baked at this stage. And then with your egg white that you'd reserved from earlier on, you just go around the bottom and sides of your pastry with a pastry brush and your egg white, and this is going to act as a seal for your pastry. This is actually a great wee step, actually. It saves you getting a soggy bottom. And whack that back into the oven for 5 minutes. So once it's had a 5 minutes extra, you can now go and start filling your pie. So you want to pop half of your bacon and leek mixture right into the bottom. And then on top of that, you want to put half of your cheese. So we're just, we're kind of layering this up. And then you want to add about 3/4 of your wet mixture on top of that. Now don't fill this right to the top because we've still to get it into the oven and you don't want it spilling everywhere. So you can do the last wee bit when it's actually on, your oven shelf. And then the last thing you want to do is pop on the rest of your cheese and the rest of your bacon and leek mixture. And like I say, once your quiche is on your oven shelf, just, pop in the remaining liquid. You want to give this between 30 and 40 minutes, gas mark 3. And this was me 35 minutes later. There should be, when you give your quiche a wee shake, there should be a wee bit of movement in the middle, and that's perfect. And I like to let mine cool quite a bit. You can have it straight away if you like, or just warm. I think it's perfect just warm, or so I've been told. Like I say, I'm not a fan of eggs, but this did look and smell fabulous. So I'm just going to cut out a wee slice just to let you see. And that was it. Super easy. I mean, there are quite a few steps in getting the pastry just right, but guys, it's worth, taking the time over. It's a lot nicer than any sort of short crust pastry that you'll buy. And it's such a sense of achievement when you've got your finished product and you've done it all yourself from start to finish. And the flavour, I mean, there's just no comparison. So I urge you to give it a go. Just take a wee bit of patience and take a bit of time, and you'll absolutely love it. If you're a fan of quiches, you can't go wrong with this, and your family are going to love you. So thank you very much for coming over and checking out this wee recipe. And if you are going to give it a go, let me know. And let me know how you got on with it. I've got Meals of the Week going up next, so I'm just working on that just now. We were actually at the cinema as well as going out for Easter lunch, so I've been kind of held back a wee bit. So I'll get that up as soon as I can. So until I see you next, guys, mind to take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. So bye for now. Bye now.